Let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to do something really fascinating. We are objectively unpacking a highly charged live speech excerpt by breaking it all down into its core thematic pieces. When we watch live political rallies, it is so easy to get completely swept up in the energy of the room or get laser focused on the specific policies being thrown around, but we're taking a different route today. We're looking strictly at the mechanics of the delivery. We're going to examine a single continuous stream of consciousness excerpt to see exactly how a speaker navigates an unexpected interruption, weaves in stories, and then dramatically pivots to these sweeping cultural warnings. And the crazy part? They do all of this without ever losing the crowd's attention for a single second.
Right off the bat, this rapid-fire repetition instantly thrusts us into that chaotic, high-stakes environment of a live political rally. Just imagine the scene, right? The speaker is mid-flight in a story, and out of nowhere, there's a loud interruption from the crowd. Now, the response here isn't some measured, polite pause. No way. It's this immediate, rhythmic, almost percussive chant of, "Go home to mom, go home to mom, go home to mom." This quick repetition isn't just a way to address the heckler. It literally changes the physical tempo of the delivery and instantly turns the entire room's attention directly onto the disruption. It is honestly a masterclass in seizing a potentially derailing moment and just absorbing it into the show.
To make sense of this completely unbroken stream of consciousness, here is our roadmap for the explainer. Number 1, deconstructing the speech excerpt. Number 2, handling the heckler. Number 3, anecdotes on women's sports. And finally, reflections on cultural shifts.
Okay, starting with Section 1, deconstructing the speech excerpt.
Moving right into Section 2, handling the heckler. So when a speaker gets interrupted on stage, they basically have a choice to make, right? They can ignore it, they can get visibly angry, or they can use it. Here, the choice is absolutely to use it, transforming a sudden break in concentration into an impromptu comedy routine that actively gets the audience involved. The heckler is neutralized, not with a policy debate, but by humorously reducing him to a little kid who's about to be in big trouble with his mom, who is supposedly watching on television. Just look at the strategic framing here. We start with the chant of "Go home to mom," which quickly pivots to a prediction that the heckler is going to be in trouble, and it's all topped off by conjuring up this vivid, hilarious image of his mother sitting at home, watching him on TV, and absolutely loving it. It completely defangs the interruption. What could have been a super tense standoff just becomes a massive shared joke with the crowd. The speaker asserts total control over the room by basically infantilizing the guy trying to ruin the event.
That brings us to Section 3, anecdotes on women's sports.
This pivot is wild. 1 second, the crowd is belly laughing at a heckler being sent home to his mommy, and literally the very next breath, the narrative dives into this highly detailed athletic competition. It completely re-anchors the audience's focus. By attributing a wingspan like Shaquille O'Neal to the competitor, the speaker is using a wildly vivid, exaggerated physical description to paint an ultra-specific picture. They're talking about a competitor in a women's swimming race. Now, instead of just saying the swimmer was really large or swam fast, invoking a universally recognized cultural icon like Shaq, who is famous for his immense size, creates this instant, unignorable visual in your head. It perfectly sets the stage for the dramatic physical disparity they're emphasizing in the story. Now, it is absolutely fascinating to see how the competitor's speed is framed here. It's done by claiming the other swimmer suffered from tremendous windburn right there in the pool. Okay, medically speaking, getting windburn underwater is an intentional absurdity. It's a joke. But rhetorically, it's brilliant. The speaker states that this is a very, very famous story where a swimmer was very severely injured. By using windburn as the punchline to describe how incredibly fast the competitor went by her, comedy is seamlessly blended with a serious claim of physical harm. It ensures the anecdote is memorable, highly engaging, and perfectly illustrates the core point they are building toward. Then, to conclude this specific anecdote, it's noted that the winner just rested while all the other girls had to finish the race. After all that crazy hyperbole about Shaquille O'Neal wingspans and underwater windburn, the tone just drops off a cliff. The winner casually rests while the other athletes struggle to finish, cementing the whole narrative with the phrase, "A very sad event, a very sad occasion." This super rapid shift in tone, from over-the-top comedic exaggeration straight into somber reflection, is incredibly deliberate. It primes the audience for the serious cultural commentary that's about to hit them. Which brings us to our final part, Section 4, Reflections on Cultural Shifts. So that swimming pool story, that was actually just the vehicle to get us right here. This is the actual destination of the argument.
There is a really stark juxtaposition being drawn between a past where these topics were just totally unthinkable and a present where the speaker feels they absolutely must be addressed directly. The audience is asked to imagine going back 15 or 20 years. Could they have ever imagined having to explicitly state, "We will not allow men to play in women's sports," or having to say we won't allow the, quote, mutilation of your children? The argument is that, back in the day, saying stuff like that would make people look at you and ask, what's wrong with that person? But today, the speaker insists that you have to say it because these things are now allowed in certain places. This right here is a classic rhetorical technique. You contrast a supposedly stable, common-sense past with a chaotic, unpredictable present to generate a massive sense of urgency.
Once that problem is fully established, the rhetoric has to shift gears again to project absolute authority and resolution. And the language here becomes incredibly forceful. We get definitive actions outlining exactly how this situation is going to be handled. Claims are made that they've already cut a lot of it out, stating super plainly that we don't allow that stuff, and promising the crowd that they are going to get it the hell out of here. Notice what's missing. There's absolutely no nuance here. No complex policy debate. It is just pure, resolute action designed to completely reassure an audience that was just riled up by those heavy cultural warnings.
And then, literally right as the heavy cultural commentary concludes, the narrative just loops abruptly back to where the whole thing started. The speaker asks the crowd about the initial heckler. Whatever happened to that guy? It's so quick, I don't know. Honestly, this is a brilliant structural technique. By bringing up the heckler again, a neat little bow is tied around this entire stream of consciousness segment. It reminds the audience of that shared joke from earlier, grounding all of that heavy, serious cultural commentary back into the immediate, highly entertaining reality of the live room.
But wait, it doesn't end on a joke. The narrative wraps up the entire sequence with this incredibly stark warning, really emphasizing the potentially volatile and highly charged environment of the crowd itself. The focus shifts from wondering where the guy went to issuing a very clear cautionary note. I tell people, please don't do it, it's dangerous. To do it in this crowd is not a good thing. This final line is pulling double duty. On one hand, it flatters the crowd. It paints them as this powerful, formidable force. But on the other hand, it caps off the heckler narrative with a serious sense of finality and just a touch of subtle intimidation.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final question to chew on. How does live political rhetoric so effectively blend immediate crowd work, vivid storytelling, and sweeping cultural commentary to completely capture a room? Think about what we just unpacked. We watched a single, continuous flow of speech seamlessly move from shutting down a heckler to a totally exaggerated story about windburn in a pool to serious warnings about societal shifts, and then right back to the heckler again. It's a powerful reminder that when it comes to live political rhetoric, the flow, the tone shifts, and the crowd interaction are just as critical, if not more so, than the actual words being spoken. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the mechanics of delivery. Keep observing, keep questioning, and I will catch you in the next explainer.